Joseph R. Curry is the new Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to the Holy See. He was confirmed the third Bahamian non-resident ambassador to the Holy See on August 3, 2022. As a non-resident, Ambassador Curry will be the country's envoy to the Holy See. Curry was born in Nassau, Bahamas on March 19, 1962, and is a member of St. Anselm Catholic Church. In an interview with the Bahama Catholic, Ambassador Curry explains his new appointment, reflects on the mission before him, and shares the recent meeting with Pope Francis. Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to the Holy See, a very long title. Explain what this title entails.
That title means that you are the appointed envoy of the government of the Bahamas to the Holy See. The Holy See in itself is really the Vatican. Most persons would refer to it as the Vatican, and would know it as the Vatican.
What is the job description of Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to the Holy See?
The job description really is that of any other ambassador. You are to represent the interests of the Bahamas or the country with the country to which you are accredited, in this case the Holy See. And it involves ensuring that the relationship between the two is maintained, first of all, at a good level, a high level, and improved upon during the time that you sit in the office. Now, for most persons, they don't know that the Holy See is really a country, and that the Pope, the Holy Father, is really a head of state. And so when you said, well, I've been getting this question, but what is the Holy See, or where's the Holy See? The Holy See is really a sovereign state, which is within the Vatican, and even more by extension, really the center of Rome in Italy. And it has a full structure of a government. It has diplomatic relations with almost 200 countries around the world. All of them will have envoys, reciprocal, including their having one here to the Bahamas. And so it's not and it's Holy See, S-E-E. That's interesting because most persons still try to inquire, well, what is that? It's really the official name of the Vatican.
And why do we need one?
The world itself is shrinking. No country can exist without having relations with other countries. I think for the purpose of the Holy See in the Bahamas, the relationship that exists is one that will cause us to work closely together in the international arena. The reach of particularly the Holy See is great. As I mentioned, a number of countries with which it maintains diplomatic relations. I think there are issues in our relations, international relations, that comes very close to the position that the Holy See would have. And in those settings, we work very closely together, and we will be working even more closely together to see how we can improve world peace, seek to speak very strongly against conflicts around the world, and also see how we can deal with stability, economic stability, poverty, economic interests on the part of citizens and on the part of countries around the world. So they actually are common, and they come together, they converge for both countries.
As the Bahamas is once again experiencing an influx of illegal immigrants or any other issue, is that an issue that the Holy See and the Bahamas will work together to resolve? Explain.
I think it's important for the relations to be elevated to the level of official visits. And that's something that we are looking at. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas will visit the Vatican, and I've opted in to have similarly conversations with the Pope on matters of interest. The most important one right now to us, or for us, would be Haiti. The Vatican is greatly concerned about the stability, political stability in Haiti. and its impact on ourselves. And I did have an extensive discussion with the Secretary of State on that matter, and it's something that I think they will expect us perhaps to lead in terms of not only the regional context. The Prime Minister is currently the chair of the CARICOM Heads of Government. That's a top of our agenda because it represents not only regional concerns of security, but it represents concerns of stability for the entire region. And that region is not just the Caribbean, it's really the Western Hemisphere, and it could go beyond that as well. So that's a conversation we had. How do we restore, how do we assist Haiti in restoring stability, political stability, economic stability? And of course, we're seeing what that means to us as a country, a very small country at that.
How is this ambassadorship different from others?
I think it's something that I've begun to now appreciate even more since having received it. Once I was invited, and I think it's important to note that I'm not the post representative as persons have referred to me as. I've been appointed by the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and more particularly by the Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis, who has asked me to accept the appointment. I have accepted it, and I think it's important to note that the appointment comes with the well wishes and support of the Archbishop of Nassau, Patrick Pinder. Having accepted the appointment, I understand now more than ever the enormity of the appointment and what it represents, because I'm not representing the church in the context of the Roman Catholic faith in the Bahamas. Outside of the Bahamas, I'm really representing the governing people of the Bahamas and the Holy See. However, being a devout Roman Catholic, I will always seek to ensure that the interests of both the church and the state come together very, very nicely in the benefit of both. There are, in my office as ambassador to the Holy See, there are no reporting obligations to His Grace directly. They are what I would call courtesies, because the relationship is not independent of what happens in the Bahamas. I have had those conversations with His Grace with the consent of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, and we've had an opportunity to discuss a number of matters. He's well in tune, and I should add that the Vatican has an ambassador to the Bahamas.
What is your main task as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to the Holy See?
The defined task is one that I have discussed with the Prime Minister, the head of government in the country. It involves how do we cause the relationship, as I mentioned earlier, to be enhanced. What that means is that wherever there are envoys or diplomats of both the Bahamas and also the Holy See, they will work closely in those arenas, particularly the international organizations, the United Nations, the OAS, Organization of American States, and all those agencies that are attached to them. They will converge to speak in the same voice. I think the government of the Bahamas recognizes the stature of the person called Pope Francis and the enormous influence which he enjoys as Pope, but also as a head of state, in his ability to impact on world events, some of which are impacting us locally. And we believe that through that we'll be able to further the interests of the Bahamas as well as the Holy See. I had a number of discussions, meetings with senior officials of the Vatican, where we discussed matters of importance to the Bahamas like migration. We also discussed the vulnerability index. We talked about the OECD. We also talked about how do we work more closely in dealing with the unrest in Haiti, but also the clash between Ukraine and Russia. and what it means. Indeed, the world has become so small and interdependent that an event that's halfway around the world, Ukraine-Russia war, is impacting us here in the Bahamas, where the president of Russia made a comment as to whether the Bahamas was cooperating with them after we took certain steps in conformity with the UN resolutions talking about the freezing of accounts in the Bahamas. So it's direct, and you'll find that the Bahamas cannot possibly stand alone, whether it's regionally or internationally, because our interests are inextricably linked to others, and by coming together, we strengthen our position.
How long is the appointment for?
It's a 3-year appointment, which of course is renewable at the end of that 3-year contract, and I'm now in my first year, so I have 2 more years.
Ambassador, tell us about your cultural experience.
It was an amazing experience, humbling. For me and my family, because they accompanied me and my assistant, it's difficult to describe. I was one of 8 ambassadors that presented. All of us are non-resident, meaning we don't physically live in Rome, but we carried our assignments from where we are domiciled, whether it's at home or in an embassy somewhere else and around the world. The exactness of what happened, the ability to carry out a function with minimal effort was really, really impressive from a protocol standpoint. But meeting His Holiness was an experience I never thought I would ever have. Surprise for my children was that they didn't quite understand they were going to have an opportunity to meet him. My wife knew, my children maybe forgot, because I did mention it to them, and so they were just blown away by the fact that they got to meet the Holy Father.
Share highlights of the places you visited while in Rome.
Well, for me and for my wife and I, it was not unusual. We'd been there before, but we'd also been to the museum, the Vatican Museum. We'd been to the Basilica. Well, it was different because this time we were going back in a different capacity. The history and what it represents in terms of the St. Peter's Basilica in particular, the historical connection of the church, particularly the popes and the thrones of the popes, and they're there, and there's a description of their contribution, who they were, and so forth, left a very, very strong impression upon me. I think the museum was also amazing to all of us. And as I said, although I'd seen it before, this time I was being given a detailed tour by one of Vatican's protocol, so they're able to explain everything. But what most places do not see, or often will not have the opportunity to see, would be the gardens. The gardens are immediately behind the basilica, and it is absolutely beautifully manicured. It's a great walk as you are shown what it represents. We did pass the apartment at the time of the now late Pope Emeritus, Benedict XVI, who was in residence at the time. And we got to see a place where Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI and also Pope Francis often conferred outdoors in the gardens. And it was a place of tremendous solace, peace, and tranquility. And I could see why they chosen that particular spot to let's have conversations just themselves and then persons in the periphery. And so I was more impressed with the gardens than I was with the interior, because it's just a beautiful, I like outdoors, it's a beautiful day. And we did have a chance also to experience the cuisine of Rome, of Italy. Amazing once again. The hospitality that was extended, the opportunity to meet colleagues, ambassadors, and also spend some time with them was amazing.
On December 15th, 2022, you presented your credentials to Pope Francis. Share the encounter with the Holy Father.
Conversation with him was very, very intriguing in the context of what he knew about the Bahamas, his reception of me, the warmth that with which I was received, and I felt not so much a sense of duty as much as a sense of mission to different things to me, because I greeted him it was interesting, I greeted him with a smile, and he returned that smile, and I would never forget that smile. But also when I presented him with a gift from the government and people of the Bahamas, and I think there's a caption there, his face is just lit up. And it's an interesting sort of story there, because I went to one of the local retailers here to find a painting, a local scenery, and I could not find anything that was not a print that I thought was appreciable, would be appreciable by him, or appropriate for him. And at the end of looking, I almost sort of walked out of the store. I saw just a background of a very beautiful sky. And I asked the vendor, what is that? And she said, well, that's not really a very good painting. I said, let me have a look at it. And I saw it, I said, that's it right there. That painting is a scene of a Bahamian beach, which had a coconut tree, but also had some remnants of a very dead tree, almost symmetrically across from one another. And I said, this represents life and death. And she said, that's a bit morbid. I said, no, that's beautiful. And she says, and I explained to her that it represents that life has two different sides that work closely together. When I presented it to His Holiness, I said to him, this is death and resurrection. And his face lit right up. Because he understood immediately the context in which I was speaking, but he was absolutely blown away by the beauty of the water and the reflection that he saw. And I think that painting or that gift was more memorable than the other 8, if I can say so. Just from this expression, I thought it was a beautiful story that I should tell, and I continue to tell, because what someone saw as broken and not relevant or not appropriate, I saw as actually very appropriate and something that would make a very big difference. So it was an amazing process, amazing experience presenting the credentials, then taking a group photo with him, individual photos with him, and even prior to that, the manner in which I was received by senior officials of the Vatican was second to none. They made me feel welcome. We had very productive discussions on things we will do together, and I look forward to the next 2 years of my appointment.